Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining us once again on another episode where this time we're going to talk about the Oleksandr Usyk and the Anthony Joshua fight over the weekend, which surprised many, but in retrospect, looking at the reports, didn't seem to surprise many. So my prediction was that Joshua had to knock out Usyk before the sixth round, or else he'd go the distance and be left in the hands of the judges. And what we saw was a pretty smart fight by Usyk. As a matter of fact, early in the rounds, round three comes to mind. He took it to Joshua. I don't know. I didn't see a championship fight out of Joshua. That's for sure. What did you see, Kristian?
Nearly as good as how I predicted it to be. I said an Usyk points win.
Yep.
The only sort of deviation from that I had come fight day is I just thought, my God, I hope this doesn't land up being some kind of dodgy UK decision, because there's plenty of those around at the moment. I thought a lot of people, and it's frustrating to read, a lot of people are bashing Joshua over his performance. Now, I don't think the performance was necessarily bad at all, because at the end of the day, he could only be as good as what was, in front of him.
Yeah.
It's just a case of, I think it's what he wasn't allowed to do by a very good display from Usyk, which made the difference in the fight. Styles make fights. I think a lot of people were basing and predicting a Usyk loss based on how well Chisora did against him. So the theory was Usyk did quite well. So what's Joshua going to do? But it was a completely different kind of fight. And the other thing that I noticed, and I think it will help also if they do have a further rematch, is a case of the period of time, because it must have been approaching. When was the Chisora Usyk fight? That was a tail end of last year. So it's looking at onwards of a year since the original fight. He has matured into being a heavyweight. This was only the third fight at heavyweight. Is he a legit one now? His body looked like it was. And if there's going to be a March-April rematch, which has been spoken about already, I think as time goes on, I think he will improve even more. He says he's got another plan, and you haven't seen the best of him. I think that definitely is the case. And going into the rematch again, I'll have Usyk as the favourite for me.
Agreed. Like I said, I was kind of surprised at what little Joshua had, in as much as his first few rounds, he didn't look like he was going after Usyk at all. At the 12th round, he clearly got knocked around, making the decision relatively easy for the judges, quite frankly. So, I mean, a rematch, will Joshua be ready? Maybe he will be ready, but yes, I agree with you. I think Usyk's going to take that one as well. So that will line up a very interesting series of heavyweight battles after that. That's for sure.
Well, that's one banana skin out the way. Obviously, October the 9th, we have the second banana skin. Let's say that a second banana skin happens. You then have, obviously, Fury, and you have AJ with defeat. Now, will that make a fight between those two easier without the belts? Both of them having taken a loss? I personally think yes. And I could be wrong with this, but I don't think any decision from the AJ camp will be announced until October the 9th has passed. So right. Everybody knows what's happening over there, obviously, with Fury, and what's happening with the WBC belts as well. Interesting times, but and this is why I wanted Usyk to win, because I just think it just opens everything up. I didn't have nothing against AJ whatsoever. Both good sportsmen, both great guys. But I just wanted it to open up, and which is why I want. Will it open up with Wilder? I think so, because we know what's going to happen with Fury. If it happens, then it's going to be AJ, and then possibly then rematch with AJ, and everything's just going to be tied up for so long. But then, that moves over to then the issue with these rematch clauses and voluntaries and mandatories. It's a can of worms.
It is indeed, but let's go back to the fight. Like I said, I thought Joshua's reach would give him the advantage. It didn't. Usyk was too fast. He was moving on his feet, avoiding those long punches, and that's what surprised me. I think the most is Joshua was not able to use the reach to his advantage. And Usyk got on the inside and clipped Joshua quite a few times, quite frankly. So,
and I thought that's the one thing that was lacking, or the one thing I got wrong. I thought it was going to be closer. I thought Joshua would have possibly had Usyk down sort of early on. That didn't happen, but you can't predict it exactly. But no, it just seemed a little bit gun shy, seemed a little bit cautious. Is this scars from the Ruiz fight? Possibly yes. Because of Usyk was landing. Since in the Ruiz rematch, AJ, well, he didn't have to worry too much about what was coming his way because Ruiz ate himself out of that fight. So what do you have in between? You had one fight where Pulev really, at his age, and he didn't have sort of put up too much resistance whatsoever. I still think the scars from the Ruiz fight. He was being clipped in that first round from Usyk, and I just think he went into like a semi-shell. He certainly wasn't the AJ that everybody remembers him for. And in the rematch, as a lot of people have quite rightly said, his chance has got to be the old AJ. You're not going to outbox the boxer. You've got to outpunch the boxer.
yeah.
It's going to be the only way in which AJ has any chance. But I think again that will still then fall into Usyk's hands if he comes out throwing. That would probably actually work into Usyk's favour. So whichever way I think AJ goes about it, I think he's going to lose. Switch of trainers people have been harping on about. I don't really think so. It's that good old situation. Somebody loses, blame the trainer. Is he that bad a trainer? We had a lot of success, with him up until Ruiz. And you just need the old AJ back under McCracken. That would be fine.
Interesting. So, what's next? October
Well,
9th?
from this bout, I was so disgusted. I'm not one for how can I put it, putting myself and being vocal on Twitter. But the moment the Campbell Hatton fight finished, I went straight on there, typing my disgust. I never air my views. Usually with Twitter, I go on there and just type, just read the headline, whatever it is, and then I run. But I went straight on there because I was disgusted that Paul Champ to come in. He came in, late notice, but he came in fit. Travelled over here only to be shafted by the referee scorecard, which was absolutely disgusting. And it just adds another bad decision on the form which the UK is having currently. There's been so many of them. We can go back to Ebony Bridges. We can go back further. There's been such a good run. And it appears to visiting boxers that UK is becoming the new Germany, how Germany was in the 90s. It's a sad state. That sticks out when you mention the whole card. Obviously, the great win by Usyk, but the stinker of a decision from the referee. It was horrible. But apparently, everyone around Hatton has been pushing him to take the rematch with him. Even Eddie Hearn was, which was really good to see. So if they do that and do create the rematch, giving the guy a chance to right the wrong, even if he did clearly win the bout, at least that's fair, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we've been saying for a long time. Don't leave it in the hands of the judges. And there's an excellent example once again that you've rightly pointed out that was left in the hands of the judges, and lo and behold, we get a robbery. So, boxing's got a history of that, and they've got to change it. And
yep, UK is bad.
I'm just wondering though if they need electronic help, technology.
Yes, something needs to happen, or if they use 3 judges lower down the fight card. But there's been some stinkers recently. It's been awful.
Yeah.
What did you think of the overall card? I was just about to say, do you think it was value for money? But then I guess you had it on DAZN over with you.
Right.
Obviously, I was watching it in the UK, which was $24.95 pay-per-view. Could be worse, I guess. some of the pay-per-views in US are a lot more expensive than that, but the issue, when you're watching that though, even if it's $24.95, knowing that somebody else, okay, end of September it changes obviously to the higher price, but people were paying £1.99 for that. That's criminal. And you've got the rest of the world watching it for that price. But I thought it was a reasonable card. A shame to see the fighter Castillo carried out on a stretcher. But all the reports have been that he was fine. Obviously, that shows that Callum Smith has got some firepower up at light heavyweight, which is very interesting to see.
Yeah.
How did you see it?
I thought I'm agreeing. I was just about to use the word decent, and I think Carl beat me to that word. But I thought it was a decent card. I'm more excited, quite frankly, about the October 9 card.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Yeah. But good value for money last night. I mean, 2 nights ago. So decent card put together.
Yep, Lawrence Okoli, that was a good result. Expected. I mean, the challenger wasn't really known. How he became, WBO mandatory, I really don't know. But you can only beat what is in front of you. But he did it and did it in style.
Yep.
So, as Eddie Hearn was saying, that he's got to go now in with one of the top sort of 3 guys. At least they're pushing for that, which is a good thing, and not protecting that fighter. Just trying to think on the bill, who else was there? We had obviously Callum Smith. We had Florian Marcoux against Maxim Prodan. Now that was interesting with the scoring with that one, because I don't think that should have been a split decision. I think Marcoux won handily, but as soon as they mentioned split decision, I just thought, oh, come on, only in the UK. I thought it was a good performance from Marcoux. He certainly has improved since his early pro days, where he had a draw with somebody that he should not have had a draw with. Marcoux looked very good, and so did Prodan. It was a very good fight. And that did, without fights like that did add to the card. I thought it was a very good fight. I thought sort of, halfway it was anybody's fight.
Yep.
That was a good bout.
Yep.
But Mr. Hatton, he's got to go. He has to go off of these big cards. Co-main event to the co-main event. When that was your 4th professional fight with 0 KOs. It's not really a good look. And I know that the camp apparently are thinking about taking him off these big shows and having the big bright light on him and putting him on the smaller cards. Personally, I can't see it happening once they've had him up there on the pedestal with that very bright light shining on him. But I think the damage is done. I think, the chap, he had limited amateur experience. He's not his father. The hurricane, it's a hurricane without puff as far as I'm concerned. That's 4 wins, should be 3-1, but with 0 KOs. It's not looking good for him. I don't want to be negative. He's 20. There's a lot of time to improve, but I've been saying to a lot of people, accident waited to happen with this chap effectively beating him, didn't get a decision, was no surprise. I even thought it was not just trying to be wise after the event, but when I saw this chap was fit at the weigh-in, I thought this is going to be a problem for Hatton. And that was just with somebody who had a losing record, but because he came in fit, short notice, I thought it was going to cause Hatton big problems, and he did.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it was a good card. Obviously the main event was absolutely fantastic. But as you say, October the 9th, that is the one I'm looking forward to. I am looking forward to the main event, and the rest of the card. I think it's probably. I love heavyweights, but I think it's probably the best undercard I've seen. I can't think of a better one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing in terms of matchups. That is going to be a great night. Great night.
A lot of questions going to be answered. Whether it's a case of they've had to match up these unbeaten fighters because of everything is so clogged at the top, which it is. I mean, what's going to happen at the top, I really don't know. But I think they've had to start, putting some unbeaten fighters in with unbeaten fighters just to find out where they're at, because there is a queue. It's worse than queuing for petrol over here in the UK at the moment. It's clogged up, and either way, with Wilder or Fury, it's still going to be clogged. I mean, if Wilder wins, he'll be either facing Fury. No, that's not going to happen. Actually, I'll take that back. There's not going to be a fourth bout. Never. But that, defense would be Dillian White, so that that would be mandatory. Then you'll be allowed a voluntary. The WBC route's going to be clogged. Every other route, obviously, is governed by what happens with, obviously, AJ, and if there's going to be a rematch with Usyk. It's still clogged. It's a little bit clearer now, but still very clogged. But no, October the 9th, that is the one. A lot of questions. I mean, Evig Jabber versus Frank Sanchez, that is a quality bout where there's questions, because obviously, as far as I'm concerned, with the people they've actually fought, any thoughts of how they're going to progress is just based on possibilities, how they could be by what we've seen them, because either of them have not been in a top, in with a top fighter and had a tough match. Questions will be answered, as will the main event.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's the cards are going to fall where they may, and I, for one, hope Fury doesn't win. But anyway,
I'm with you with that one. I want Wilder to win, and I think he will. Mindset. This just is so different to how it was before the second one. Right. Everything, the way they're conducting themselves, what appears to be the mindset is like role reversal, and I just think it's going to be completely different this time. All I know is that at least one thing that's going to be cleared up with this fight is there'll be no further complaints, whether they were justified or not, with the glove gate theory, with the tampered gloves, with loose gloves, with anything else, because I'm sure any gloves would be quadruple checked going in. I mean, how do you feel, just very briefly, with the glove situation, with the Fury fights, with what you've seen evidence-wise?
I've only seen fans putting up various pictures, either pointing one way or the other. It's like, and you're just as a fan looking at these pictures, you're going, I don't see it. I really don't see it. So who do you go by? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to trust the boxers, I think, anyway. This isn't the bad old days. I mean, but that's all I can go by, is what I'm visually presented in front of me, and I don't see it.
I don't think there was anything which was done intentionally. All I know is that something was wrong, because with the way the gloves did not look right. Whether that was intentional or not, just by that was a characteristic of that particular glove on that hand and everything else.
Right.
But what was supposedly, and this is just going on hearsay, because obviously some things in the court case I can only guess, they can't give out in an exact fashion. But apparently, some of the decision with the arbitration for it to be ruled was based on some of the issues with this glove gate theory. And apparently, it goes back to the bout with Fury and Kristian Hamer. And if you go to the Kristian Hamer fight, I do believe it was that fight, I'll send you the link later. You will actually see that the referee, Marcus McDonnell, goes over, effectively just gives him the last good luck, checks, whatever, and notice that the glove, I was just about to fall into that trap and say had been tampered with, but where you have the thumb had been taken off of the glove, in between being checked by the British Boxing Board of Control and by the time they got to the ring. To the point of Marcus McDonnell was there, plain to see, shaking his head over what possibly had happened. This is not slowed down, it can't be doctored. This was a fact, and this certainly does bolster, I think, the claims that there could be some type of wrongdoing whether it just be a little bit of a bending something, the rules with something. I don't think there's anything being done, in a bad malice way. This is not going back to the early 80s with Billy Collins Jr. and having plaster casted hands and all that kind of stuff. It's not to that level, but something just doesn't seem right. And I have played and played and replayed and gone through and slow motion and this, and just something doesn't look right. And I can't, for the life of me, put my finger on it exactly. But this has appeared more recently, and it just makes you think. But going back to the original point I mentioned, is at least from that fight, it is going to put all that to bed, because everything is going to be more than checked. So if Fury does repeat how he was in that second fight, then he's going to be viewed as a devastating puncher, that going in with Sugar Hill Stewart, where he did his magic and was able to turn him from a pillow fist over to somebody that was able to be a devastating puncher, as it looked in the second fight with Wilder.
Yeah.
All questions to be answered. There is so many questions, and I think it's going to be answered in an emphatic way by Wilder.
Yeah, very well said. I appreciate those sentiments and I agree with them completely. I've said it before. It's more for me a personal level. I just don't. I used to like Fury.
Yep.
But I just don't. As time moves on, as personalities become more obvious, I really like the way Wilder's handling himself publicly, and I
Yep.
don't like the way Fury's handling himself publicly. So, this is a fan game, and yes, it's a sport. Yes, it's a business, but at the end of the day, it's for the fans, and I'm a fan. And do I like Fury? No.
Well, the one thing is that at the end of the day, we're still say just under 2 weeks away from it. There's still time for the bout not to go ahead, and I'm not going to be 100% happy until I see them gloved up, walk into the ring.
Yeah.
If it did get cancelled this time, because obviously with the original bout, the undercard got cancelled with the main event as well. I mean, I don't think they would do that. So what would you have? Efe Jagbar versus Frank Sanchez as the main event? Yes. Don't care really as such, because the whole thing, I'm looking for the whole package. October the 9th. What a great birthday present.
It will be indeed. We have one quick comment I'd like to address. That courtesy of Carl. How can you back Wilder when he says about taking Fury's life, etc.?
How could I back him? As far as being a winner, or personally? Personally, I don't dislike Fury, but I used to be on the Fury bandwagon in a big way. I used to be also on the bandwagon of Wilder. I thought he was, a top chap. But again, it's comments like that where personally, yes, it's left a bit of a sour taste in his mouth, where obviously he goes OTT. I know it's the fight game and everything else, but yes, absolutely, I'm not a Wilder fan. So I'm not a fan of either of them. As far as I'm concerned, the result is going to be the thing that's going to come from all of this. Wilder it is for me.
Yeah, so it'll be settled in the ring, as they say, and hopefully not left in the hands of the judges.
And it's a good situation to be in, because one thing I do not like is having two fighters that I'm invested with emotionally. Two fighters I like, AJ and Usyk. I like the two of them.
Yeah.
And I was only wanting Usyk to win just because the state of the heavyweight division. I just wanted it to open up. Not particularly into Fury anymore, not ever been a Wilder fan. So let them sort it out, because it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good bout. Absolutely. One winner for me all the way. Exciting times ahead, as they say.
Good question then. If there's no rematch between AJ and Usyk, do you think Usyk will be going head-to-head against Joe Joyce?
Yes. Now, Joe Joyce currently, or up to the fight, was the WBO as such mandatory number. He was the number 2 mandatory contender and the second in line as a mandatory. God, then at that point, this is what it brings in. When you have this thing with the mandatories and voluntaries, I think that with these either two situations, I do think the governing bodies should not allow these rematch clauses to take place, or if they do, the rematch clause is to be the voluntary. So if there is a mandatory first, they have to do that, then do the set rematch clause to fight as the voluntary. That's how I would have it. But yes, there's going to be a bit of a merry-go-round for ages because you've got everybody vying for the top. You could have Dillian White, regardless of what happens with. I think actually, if Wilder wins, Dillian White, I think, is going to get his shot. I can see that fight happening, really can. If Fury wins, he'll be obviously eyeing up the AJ fight, and even more so having seen, AJ out boxed by Usyk. But then, I do think that AJ, there won't be any decision made until after October the 9th. I think they want to see the state of everything, map out as well. It's not just a case of, I want to. I think AJ would want to rematch him, but I think as a team, I think they would want to get October 9th out of the way. I certainly would, and then plot what they're going to do from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just my opinion.
And it's worth a lot. And thank you very much. Okay, that concludes our show today. Thanks very much for joining me, Kristian. This is Kristian from Boxing 247, joining me, Graeme, from Talkin Fight. And we'll see you tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have another
UK live at 5.
Live at 5. Love that. And for me, it's the nooner. All right. Thanks very much, Kristian. Appreciate it.
See you soon. All the best.
Thanks, Carl. Bye-bye.